Say sorry to my sister or leave my house. My husband demanded at dinner, so I stood up and walked away. The words came so calmly that for a second, I thought I had misunderstood him. Say sorry to my sister or leave my house. My husband, Daniel, was sitting across from me at our dinner table, his voice firm and his expression completely serious. His sister, Rachel, sat beside him with her arms folded, pretending to look hurt. My mother-in-law stared down at her plate, as if she wanted no part in the conversation. And I just sat there. The dinner I had spent 2 hours preparing suddenly felt like a courtroom, where everyone had already decided I was guilty. I looked at Daniel and asked, "You want me to apologize for what?" He sighed impatiently for embarrassing Rachel. I almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about the situation. Earlier that afternoon, Rachel had come to our house unannounced. She walked into the kitchen while I was preparing dinner and immediately started criticizing everything. She complained about the food, the furniture, the way I had arranged the living room, and even the way I spoke to Daniel. I tried to ignore her. Then she picked up a framed photograph from the shelf. It was a picture of my late father. Rachel looked at it and said, "You still keep this everywhere. You really need to move on." That was the moment I couldn't stay silent. I told her respectfully that she had no right to speak about my father that way. She rolled her eyes. Then she said something that changed everything. "He's gone, stop acting like the world owes you sympathy." I told her to leave, she didn't. Instead, she called Daniel and told him that I had attacked her. By dinner, the story had completely changed. Apparently, I had humiliated Rachel, disrespected her, and made her feel unwelcome in the home. She believed belonged to her brother as much as it belonged to me. I listened as Daniel repeated her version. "You owe her an apology," he said. "I don't," I answered quietly. Rachel immediately looked at him. "See, this is exactly what I was talking about." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Just apologize, Emma." "It's not that difficult." I looked around the table. My mother-in-law finally spoke. "Sometimes a wife has to put her pride aside for the family." I stared at her. "Does that apply to Rachel too?" Silence. Rachel looked offended. Daniel pushed his chair back. "I am not going to argue with you all night." Then he said those words, "Say sorry to my sister or leave my house." Something inside me went completely still. For years I had convinced myself that Daniel was simply trying to keep peace between everyone. Whenever his family criticized me, I stayed quiet. Whenever Rachel borrowed things and returned them damaged, I let it go. Whenever my mother-in-law made comments about how I wasn't good enough for Daniel, I smiled politely. I kept telling myself marriage required compromise. But sitting at that table, I finally realized something. Compromise means meeting halfway. It doesn't mean one person keeps surrendering while everyone else keeps taking. I slowly pushed my chair away from the table. Daniel looked surprised. "What are you doing?" I stood up. "You told me to leave." Rachel's expression changed immediately. "Emma, don't be dramatic." I looked at her. "I'm not being dramatic. I'm taking your brother seriously." Daniel stood too. "Wait, you're actually leaving?" I nodded yes. He seemed to expect me to cry, beg, or apologize. Instead, I walked upstairs. I packed a small suitcase with clothes, my documents, and a few personal belongings. My hands were shaking, but my mind was strangely clear. Daniel followed me into the bedroom. "You're really going to throw away our marriage over an apology?" I turned around. "No. You're throwing away our marriage because you made me choose between my dignity and your family's approval." He stared at me. "You're my wife." "Then you should have defended me." He didn't answer. I zipped my suitcase. Then I picked up the photograph of my father from downstairs. Rachel had moved it from the shelf and left it on the dining table. I held it against my chest as I walked toward the front door. Daniel said, "If you walk out, don't expect me to come chasing after you." I stopped for 1 second. I hoped he would take it back. He didn't, so I opened the door. "I wasn't asking you to chase me. I said I was hoping you would choose to stand beside me." Then I left that night. I stayed at my friend Laura's apartment. I barely slept, not because I regretted leaving, because I kept wondering how long I had been ignoring the truth. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of messages. Some were from Daniel, some were from Rachel. My mother-in-law sent me a long message about respecting family. Rachel's message was different. She wrote, "You always knew I was important to Daniel. You should have known better than to challenge me." I stared at those words for a long time. Then I realized something. She wasn't sorry. She didn't think she had done anything wrong. She thought she had won, but she hadn't. I didn't respond instead. I called a lawyer and started understanding my rights regarding the home, finances, and everything we had built together. That afternoon, Daniel called. His voice sounded different. "Can we talk? I've been thinking." He continued, "Maybe I went too far." I said nothing. He took a breath. "Rachel told me something else. What she admitted, she insulted your father." I closed my eyes. "So you knew?" "No. I didn't know you believed her without asking me." I was wrong. Those 3 words were the first honest words he'd spoken in days. But they weren't enough. He asked me to come home. I told him I needed time for the first time in our marriage. I wasn't making decisions based on what would keep everyone else happy. I was making decisions based on what I could live with. 3 days later, Daniel came to Laura's apartment. He didn't bring flowers. He didn't make excuses. He simply stood outside the door and said, "I'm sorry." I looked at him. He continued, "I should have protected you. I should have listened to you before judging you, and I should never have told you to leave our home." I appreciated the apology, but I asked him one question. "If this happens again, whose side will you take?" He looked down, then he said, "Yours when you're right, and I'll tell you when you're wrong. But I won't ever let my family disrespect you again." That answer mattered, because I didn't want a husband who blindly defended me. I wanted a husband who respected me enough to hear the truth. Daniel eventually confronted Rachel. He told her she owed me an apology. She refused for the first time. Daniel didn't force me to accept her behavior. He told Rachel that, until she could respect our marriage and our boundaries, she wouldn't be welcome in our home. That was the moment I knew something had changed. I didn't return immediately. We spent weeks rebuilding trust. Daniel learned that keeping peace isn't the same as doing what's right. I learned that setting boundaries doesn't make me selfish. And Rachel learned that being someone's sister didn't give her control over their marriage. Months later, I finally returned home. The dining table was still there. The same chairs, the same room. But everything felt different. Daniel cooked dinner that night. He wasn't very good at it. The chicken was almost burned. I laughed for the first time in weeks. He smiled. I guess I still have a lot to learn. I looked at him and said, "We both do." Our marriage wasn't magically perfect after that night, but it became honest. And sometimes walking away is not about ending something. Sometimes walking away is the only way to make someone understand what they are about to lose. That night, my husband told me, "Say sorry to my sister or leave my house." So I stood up, I walked away, and for the first time, he finally understood that my silence had never meant weakness. It had meant I was giving everyone one more chance to treat me with respect. And when that chance was finally gone, I chose myself.